right. I'm down with that.
Give me a minute to get the live thing up on Facebook so that I can manage it. Wondering if we get people commenting. Refresh this. There I am. Settings. So how have you been, Matthew?
I'm doing great.
Are you though?
Yes. I
Good.
was I was so excited when I saw your post this morning. I was like, absolutely, I want to get on here.
That's great. I am excited for you to be here. Let me figure out how I can get into this live. Manager. There we go. Now I can see it. Okay. Matthew, hello.
Hello.
Now, oh, hold on. I was hearing myself again, and I hate that shit. Anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? Hello, and welcome to Horror Movies and Shit. I'm your host, Jim, and Mark is not here today. He's too busy getting ready for vacation. But I have my buddy Matthew with me. Matt, why don't you give out your social so people can follow your great stuff?
Absolutely. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram under HorrorMaddness 0055.
Now, tell us a little bit about Matthew. What gets you going?
Oh man. Obviously one of my absolute passions is watching horror movies. It's kind of like my circadian rhythm. I try to watch a horror movie every night, and I have about a 20-year streak going for that right now.
Holy
Uh,
shit.
yeah, I don't miss. I do not miss. So whereas some people like books or doing their art or anything like that, horror movies is truly my passion, and I like to make jokes that I've probably watched more bad horror movies than people have watched good.
Look, some of those bad horror movies are glorious. Let's not get
Absolutely,
it twisted, right?
absolutely.
So, what got you into loving horror so much? What was it?
So okay, so being a child of the '80s, we have this mega action star Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, he's like in every other movie.
Right?
And I remember I'm 6 years old and I begged my parents to let me watch Predator. And that was like the biggest mistake ever. I watched that movie and I think I had nightmares for like 3 months. And then ever since then I was hooked.
Wow. That's we did not have the same parents because at 7 I was watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Totally different vibe. Oh man, that's great. And ever since then it was just all downhill, huh? That was it for you?
Absolutely. I used to love it. Like, before streams and everything, it was the Saturdays and Sundays that you had just nonstop streaming. They were just showing horror movies all day long. And I mean, obviously they were the edited versions and everything like that, but
Right.
you just watch them for like 10 hours straight and just get it. And then I remember it was so exciting once a week that I could always go to the old VHS stores, the old movie stores, and I'd go to the horror section, and it was weird. I'd always start like from A to Z, and I'd always try to pick out a new movie every time, and that really helped develop and form my love for horror movies.
So tell us a little bit about how your taste developed. We obviously Predator started it. Where did it go from there?
Well, it's funny. My next big movie that I watched, and because it came out in 1986, was Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and that really helped form my love for creature features.
Yep. Sure.
But I remember I watched Friday the 13th and I was like smitten. And that made me realize that slashers were always going to be my number one, and boy was the 80s perfect for slasher movies.
Indeed it was. What are some of your favorites?
Friday the 13th, but I will say this, even though I don't have a lot of love for Michael Myers, I think Halloween is a masterpiece. I think it's a 10 out of 10. It's the definitive slasher. I love the original Psycho, and I love like some of the underrated ones that just don't get enough love, like The Burning, Sleepaway Camp, and then let's go even further down. I'll go with like Slumber Party Massacre, Silent Night, Deadly Night. There's so many great slashers during that time period.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I myself am also a huge slasher fan, so I get it. My first foray into slashers, I was 7 or 8 years old, and my mother recorded Nightmare on Elm Street off of HBO.
I love that movie so much. I love it.
That was the beginning of the end for me. I've never looked back, and she expected me to absolutely lose my shit, and I did not. I fell instantly in love, and I sought every other horror movie I could find from that point on.
That's great. I love that. And I think that's like people who grew up in the 70s and 80s, like parents were so different. Like the
Mhm.
stuff that they let us watch versus like the censorship nowadays, like uh I think it's where people form their love for things. Like you gotta let I get trying to keep the innocence and maintain it, but there's something fun about when you have a parent that allows you to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Uh I remember I remember at a very young age reading it, and
Mhm.
that book is heavy, and
Yes.
it's and books again were probably one of my first loves. I used to love to read, and starting to get back into it now, but it was
Good.
such a powerful book.
Yeah, it was. I'll be honest, I read it when I was probably way too young also, and I missed a lot of the problematic subject matter. I did not remember it until I reread it as an adult.
Yep. Stephen King, one thing that I've always liked about him is, he tells you very very often in his books that he is a very good writer. He knows it,
Yeah.
and he delivers just some of the heaviest, yeah, like you said, subject material, and he's a master at it.
Yeah.
And another one, like I love it when people ask me what my opinions are of Hellraiser, and I'm like, oh my god, I love Clive Barker, and if you've never read his books, like I always liked the books of blood and everything like that when I was younger, and like there were so many great horror writers back then. I mean, there still are now, but
Oh yeah.
just so many greats, and
Yeah. I
a
don't
lot of the 80s and 90s movies were based off a lot of those books.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I am, believe it or not a huge Clive Barker horror book fan. I do love the Books of Blood. I think it's a fantastic short story collection. I am much more into his darker fantasy, like Imagica and Weave World. I think those books are absolutely beautiful and twisted. I did love the Hellbound Heart,
Yes.
but none of the follow up.
Really? Okay.
I just wasn't a fan of what was it, Harry Demore, that whole character arc. Even when they brought Pinhead into it, I did not care for it.
Nice.
But that's
Yeah.
okay because I was bigger into creature features back then, like Brian Lumley with all of the Burrowers, and all of his Leviathan type stuff, or not Leviathan, Eldritch type stuff. More than I was into the horror stuff like I'm into now. Now I
Yeah.
read a lot more indie horror. I'm very blessed to have some great indie horror author friends, and their books are just amazing.
Yeah, that's I love just following you guys with the book talk and everything that y'all do, like seeing all the stuff that y'all read. Like I will honestly say finding that side of the horror talk community, y'all actually have gotten me back into reading, and that's
Good.
I give y'all full credit for that cuz it was a passion of mine many years ago. So,
Well, when you're ready to read a book that will severely traumatize you, let me know, and I have a few recommendations.
that's awesome.
So I also know, because we're friends, that you are really big into indie horror now.
Absolutely.
So tell me about some of the projects that you've heard or read about that you're really excited about.
Well, there's one that I'm upcoming that I'm very excited about. I reached out to them while they're in their Kickstarter phase, and it has Danielle Harris in it. It's called
Dr. Gift.
Doctor Gift. Yes, I am so pumped. It's a slasher, and then also I'm very excited about Death Woods. And I think I showed you the link to the other day where it's like Instagram found them to be too uh,
Yeah.
too much for Instagram, and they took down their site. So, that when I saw that trailer and that it had that little nod to the burning in the middle of the trailer, I was like, sign me all the way up for this.
Yep.
But obviously with Sugarcane coming out June 13th, we've all been massively involved with Postmortem Films and Pat Baker. I am so excited for them. And then obviously you had them on your podcast the other day. Corey Trahan,
Hmm.
Scara, Sarah Webb, Damsel of the Doomed. I am so excited for all their micro budget projects. I get to actually see Scara at the Horror Web setup at their booth at Texas Frightmare Weekend next week, and I'm very excited for
Oh,
that.
how awesome.
Yep.
That sounds like a blast. Yeah, I'm very excited for everything Corey's working on right now. I'm super super pumped for the Demon Code. That sounds like a really heavy movie, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and I will say this, and what continues to draw me into the indie scene even further and further and deeper is that these guys are so genuine.
Yep.
Like when I first met Corey at that event I went to at South by Southwest, like he genuinely was excited to talk to me, to network with me, and every time I've talked with him, he's been just so open about his projects and appreciative of any of the support that he can get, and that just makes you want to support them even more.
Do you know what his day job is?
Yes, and he's doing much better than me, my friend.
Right. He told us when he was on the podcast, and wow, like
Yep.
that's just amazing. Not only is the guy wicked smart, but he's also super talented. So
Yep.
that's pretty great. I'm super excited about that. One movie I don't know if you have seen yet or heard about yet is I was lucky enough to go to a screening here at a local theater of a movie that was shot locally called I Possessed.
Yes, I want to see that.
Oh my god, when that goes to streaming, it should blow up because it doesn't have the feel of a a micro budget film. It doesn't have the feel of an indie film. Like sometimes you get the wooden performances, the bad writing. This has none of that. Like the story is solid, the special effects are great, and it's really deep. I don't want to get too much into it, but it's really deep. And I was just blown away.
And I think that's what's fun too is like I like the whole networking thing, like reaching out and talking to these people and getting the opportunities is like, I know, I feel like there's a mix of people. Like, I feel like there's sometimes people out there that like, oh, I feel like this film should do something for me because I'm helping them out. The
Right.
way I look at it is wow, they gave me access to their movie. Like they
Yep.
actually gave me a piece of their heart
Yep.
and gave me an opportunity to watch it, and that's enough for me. And I enjoy that.
I agree. Like there's something to be said about indie filmmaking where you can. It's not always the case. Let's be honest. Some of them are a little rough, but in general, you can always feel the heart behind the film. And I think that's what makes it such a great experience. Even if, let's say, the sound design is not great or the lighting is bad or whatever because of budgetary constraints, you can still feel the heart behind the film. So you can overlook all of that and still get to the meat of the story.
Well, and let's be honest, I think since the 80s is my favorite decade for horror, indie has to save that money and put extra work by using practical effects. And that
Right.
almost takes me back,
Yep.
and that's, I think another thing too is like what I enjoy not about indie now as much as back in the 80s when a lot of the big movies now were indie
Right.
is that, you know, you look at it and horror's been kind of in a renaissance the last 2 years. Like there's been a shot in the arm the last 2 years, and indie has been a huge part of it.
Yeah.
And like people don't give enough respect to Shutter. Like Shutter is putting all these independent films in mainstream theaters,
Yeah.
and we should be running to support them.
I would not support all of them, but some of them are fantastic. Some of them I have really struggled with, I'll be honest, and I'd much rather just wait for streaming. But
Yeah.
I want to say hey to Chris Ladd. He is watching us on Facebook. Hey, Chris. But anyway, what are some of your favorite indie horror flicks?
Well, I mean, the absolute OG for me, I love Sam Raimi's Evil Dead.
Of course.
Uh, it is one of my absolute favorites. Obviously Friday the 13th. I
Yep.
love that movie. And then the list just keeps going on and on. I mean, so many of the slashers and everything, but honestly, Friday the 13th formed my love for Voorhees. I love Halloween. I think that is a 10 out of 10.
Yep.
Um, and those are really my top three that I absolutely adore.
Yeah. What about
But
more recently?
wow. So one of the indie horror movies that I think it's about it. I loved Sugarcane.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I absolutely loved Abduct. If y'all don't
Yep.
have that one on your radar, Abduct was awesome.
Yeah.
And I think the director is Chris Riggy. And I actually reached out to him on Instagram and again responded and was more than willing to send me a screener. And I was very thankful for that. Um, Man, I know there's more. I mean, obviously the micro budget films. I enjoyed The Black Quarry a
Yep.
lot, which is on Amazon and streaming right now. And I know he doesn't want us talking about it too much until October, but Damsel of the Doomed was
Mm.
fun.
Yep.
Uh and I think they're actually filming they're actually showing that for the first time at Texas Frightmare Weekend. It got
They
selected
are.
for the film. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
That is.
Um, yeah, I mean, God, there's so much great indie. I would assume that this is an indie film. And it was last year, and this was probably my favorite psychological horror in years. But I really liked Violet with two T's
Mm-hmm.
with Georgia Ayers. That movie was tremendous. Her performance in that film was excellent. I recommend that movie anytime someone asks me about a movie.
That's fair enough. There's another movie. So a film I saw on Shutter, Hagasusa. If you haven't watched it, it's about a woman who lives out in the woods. I believe it's in Norway. Like she's very secluded. That's the word I was looking for.
There you go.
But she has these neighbors that continue to abuse her. And the whole movie is about how far is she going to let this go? And then you see the end of the movie and you're like, oh crap. But anyway.
Well, like that was speaking of, and it kind of reminds me of a couple movies. Like I know this movie's very divisive, but I fell in love with it when I first watched it. That's how I felt with like stop motion. Like I really liked how stop motion went, and I know a lot of people didn't like that movie. I think it landed in my top 15 of last year,
Right.
but man, that movie was so good.
I like the third act. I did not like the movie up until that though. When it goes full balls to the wall, it's fantastic. But it's for me it was a huge drag getting there.
Yeah, it was definitely a slow burn developing and I think that's what can save a lot of movies. Like if the first and second act are sloppy, but the third act really delivers,
Yep.
like I'll tell you a movie last year I was so excited for, and I thought the first two acts were phenomenal, and then they lost me completely in the third act was Cuckoo. I
Haven't seen it yet.
oh the third act was just it was in my top 10 for the year last year, and I came out of that third act and I was just like, man, if they could have just stuck the landing, this would have been a phenomenal movie. But I just didn't like the third act.
And that's fair. I mean, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, right? But my favorite slow burn of the last 5 years is, I believe it's a 2020 film called Promising Young Woman, and it's not horror at all. But
That's
it is a masterclass in how to do a slow burn with one hell of a payoff.
that was a great movie. Yeah, I don't really talk about it too often, but I'm a cinephile, so I watch all genres. I will literally watch anything.
Right.
Uh, but if I'm gonna doze off for the night, I always turn on a horror movie for sure.
Yeah, of course. And I always turn on cartoons.
That's awesome.
It's always Family Guy or um I don't know, something stupid, Solar Opposite, something stupid that I can fall asleep to. But anyway, that's beside the point. We're here to talk about horror movies. Anyway, so let's talk first. Let's start with big budget. What are you excited to see this year?
Oh, well, okay. Since we're talking slashers, I am excited for I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Of course.
I'm interested to see what they do with the legacy characters. Uh, I will say I probably won't make it this weekend because I've been so busy at work, but I am excited for Final Destination Bloodlines because I want to say goodbye to Tony Todd.
So I can give you a little insight because I
Okay,
actually saw it on opening night. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a hell of a lot of fun.
good. See,
And
and see that.
what they do with Tony Todd is absolutely amazing.
See, I heard that they definitely treated his scenes right, and and that's what I always expect from the Final Destination is like I like to see how death plays out the unalives in the movie.
Yeah, I will say, like, I was annoyed because they do change some of the lore that has been established for a decade now. But what they do with the film is fun. As
Yeah,
long as you don't take it too seriously. James Hill said Evil Dead is the best. You're absolutely right, James Hill. It's great.
yeah. See, and when people, and no disrespect to Fede Alvarez because I've actually loved his work, but when people say Evil Dead 2013 is the best of the series, I strongly disagree.
I would
Um,
I would agree with that.
because Evil Dead to me just it gives me that grisly independent feel. Bruce Campbell is just, I mean, a legend, an icon. I know that Jane Levy and what Fede Alvarez did in Evil Dead 2013, I will give them their flowers. It is an amazing film. I rank it actually second in the franchise, which I love all five of them.
Yeah.
But I just I love Evil Dead.
I don't I absolutely agree. I thought the way that Fede treated the 2013 remake, or I'm sorry, reboot, was beautiful.
Yep.
He did something different but expanded the story. He treated it with respect. He didn't make it a joke. Um it would probably fall right behind Army of Darkness for me because I appreciate the movies in order. Um I was not a fan of Evil Dead Rise. I thought there were some fun things about it, but overall, I thought it was a really weak entry. Um, but I mean, all the Evil Dead movies in general, I will watch no matter what, whether I love them or hate them. I don't care.
See, I guess my thought on Evil Dead Rise, and I wanted to see more because first of all, I thought that opening was impressive.
Yeah,
Like when she's quoting the book while she's reading it, I thought that was awesome, and I wanted to see them expand on the three books, like
yeah,
truly expanding the lore. But my only annoying, and I find I focus in on scenes.
yeah.
This kid has a speaker that's booming in a small apartment. How the hell did nobody else come in and say stop that?
Right. And that's what I felt was its real drawback. Like there were some masterful things done in that film, like when what's her name, the mom is in the elevator and she's getting essentially ripped apart, right? Where they shot the way they shot it, where she would strike the pose, then they show the page from the book. I thought that was great. It was beautiful. It was well done. There were a lot of really brutal scenes. Where I thought it fell short was keeping everything confined to one floor and one apartment. They had an entire building to work with, and they could have made it absolute insanity, which is what I was sort of looking for.
Yeah. Well, and that scene is, again, a nod to the iconic tree scene from Evil Dead as well.
Mhm.
So,
Yep. Again, which is another scene. I didn't realize what was happening until I saw it as an adult. When
yep.
I was a kid, I was just like, I don't get it. What happened?
Well, and again, I think, and even though I am not a complete fan of the Terrifier series, I kind of want to thank Damien Leone and David Howard Thornton for what they're doing to kind of bringing cinema that actually pushes the limits back into theaters, which I feel like horror movies played it really safe for about 20 years.
They did. You're not wrong. Um, I will say that regardless of whether you are a fan of Terrifier or not, you have to respect what it did for independent cinema and almost extreme cinema coming back into the mainstream, right?
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
I have a lot of feelings about Damien Leone right now,
Yep.
but I absolutely adore David Howard Thornton. He is probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met at a con.
I am very excited to meet him and Lauren Lavera next weekend. I that's definitely high on my list. And you know, he and I know like you like the trashy movies like me too. I had an absolute riot watching Screamboat, and his facial expressions, he just killed it in that movie.
I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I saw that it was out, so I keep meaning to, but I just haven't picked it up. But what I will say is, I had the opportunity. Now, I'm not a fan of the Terrifier series, right? I appreciate what it's done, but they're just not my kind of movie. However, our buddy Ryan came down to Miami with me to go to a con, and we had the opportunity, the amazing, amazing opportunity to watch Terrifier 3 and have it introduced by Damien Leone, Lauren Laverna, David Howard Thornton, and I can't remember the little brother's name, but I went just for the experience, and I was not disappointed.
And that's awesome. See, those are the kind of things that's why you got to go and experience these kind of things.
Yep.
Like I like one of the people that's on my list and at this con next week, and I guess he's not doing like photo ops or autographs or anything, but Billy Hopan from Circus of the Dead is going to be there, and he's going to be selling shirts that are Texas Frightmare weekend exclusives, and I'm like, man, that's a guy that I'd really like to meet.
Yeah.
Because if I'm talking about a clown movie that I actually appreciate that's independent, that I felt was a little bit better than Terrifier, I really liked Circus of the Dead 1.
Have not seen it yet. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but I have not seen it yet.
Yeah, and you know, and again, I think as an independent filmmaker, that movie got buried, and I feel like a lot of the content creators and a lot of people that helped get that movie out in front of people really helped his dream of making a second movie. And again, I think that's how powerful we are when we support and push these independent films out in front of people and really give our feedback.
So we were lucky enough to talk to a director of an upcoming horror comedy called The Fetus with Lauren Laverna. Have you seen it?
I cannot wait for that movie.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I'm excited about the film. It looks like it's going to be a blast. And I mean, you have Lauren Laverna and Bill Moseley. Bill Moseley is always great in everything he does, except The Devil's Rejects. But we won't go there because we all know Rob Zombie got me banned from TikTok for 3 days.
That's awesome.
He didn't really. I made a comment about one of his movies and something I said tripped off their censors. So, but I blame him anyway. That's neither here nor there. Anyway, okay, so we talked about some big budget stuff that you're interested in, and we talked about some indie stuff. So tell me, what about a horror film really gets you going? What do you have to see in a film that's going to get you to buy into it?
Okay, so I'm pretty wide ranging on this. Like, I can watch from an A class to, but like, it's funny. Like, my favorite movie of 2024 was Heretic, but then and the lead performances by Hugh Grant and Sophie Thatcher were just top notch. But then I can turn around and see a movie called Slaughterhouse, and and that movie just has an instant like connection to me. Like, I was so excited to go see that movie. I remember I was like the only person in the theater. I was like, this is greatness. Like, why is this theater not packed? Like,
that's how I felt when I watched Handjob Cabin.
That's awesome.
That movie was fucking great. I loved it.
Well, I see, and I think that's something that AMC is doing that's really fun. They do this thing called Scream Unseen. And, you know, they show you the movie like 3 weeks before it releases theatrically. And I went, and Slaughterhouse was like one of the releases. And I was dying laughing. Like, this sloth lifts his arm, and it takes him like 45 seconds to unalive this girl, and I'm just dying the whole time. It's amazing.
I need to talk about AMC then. I know they're not a sponsor, and I have no pull with them, but let me just tell you, I love their Scream Unseen. Yep. I've done it a few times at when I lived up in another area in this county. But here where I live now, they don't participate at my local theater.
Oh,
Excuse me, AMC, but you need to fucking participate in Palm Bay, Florida. Do you understand me?
see, that's crazy. Yeah, because mine, I actually have to drive a couple towns down to actually see Scream Unseen. So I feel your pain. Like I have an AMC right in my backyard, and I have to go to a specialty theater to see mine.
Mm-hmm. We will not stand for this, AMC. But anyway, no, I kid. I do want them to bring it here, but I kid. Anyway, I'm trying to think of some other independent films that I've heard about recently that I'm really excited about. Because I enjoy The Fetus. We already talked about The Black Quarry, Damsel of the Doomed, and The Demon Code. We talked about I Possess. That's making the circuit, which is really interesting. I know I'm backtracking, but with I Possess, like we spoke to Carl Remy, and he was saying how they're staying out of the festival circuit and they're just sort of bringing the film with them around the country. And I think that's brilliant. Like
Yeah,
that is the best way for them to get word of mouth, because that's how the horror community survives, right? Is you hear about this film that only gets seen now and then, right?
yep.
And the other thing I really found interesting was he's a stand-up comic, and he wrote a horror film,
Isn't that awesome? I
and he
love it when
did an
people do that.
amazing job.
Yep.
Which, I mean, clearly he's multi-talented and a super nice guy.
Well, that I like that as a subgenre anyway of horror. I've always loved horror comedy
Oh, of
in
course.
general. So, but yeah, it's amazing when you see these people that are so multifaceted and so talented that like you would never know
Right.
that it's like, hey, I'm a stand-up comedian, or obviously like what we were talking about with Corey earlier, and it's like, wow, it's phenomenal. Like, not only do you have you have a band,
Right.
you this is your day job, you have a uh, haunted house, and you have all these things working for you, and it's like then you turn out a micro budget film that just doesn't feel like a micro budget film.
Right.
And I think what I liked the most about when you were talking to Corey the other day is when he actually discussed using the long shot, which
Right.
again you don't see that often in Hindi horror, and you had to appreciate that.
And that
And
was the one thing I brought up to him, is that shot was insane and done so well.
yep,
And
and
I love
you
puking. Like it makes me giggle every time for some stupid reason. Probably because I'm mentally 5 years old. But I love when people just vomit uncontrollably. I can't stop laughing.
I did, yeah, that's great. I love that stuff.
It's ridiculous. But anyway, so let's talk about some of our favorite movies from let's just talk about slashers in general, right? So we talked about you said you were excited for I Know What You Did Last Summer, but there's another one that's coming out that I just saw. Son of a bitch. What was it? We just saw it in the previews when we went to go see Final Destination Bloodlines. I don't remember. Oh, horror comedies. Let me look this up because I can't remember the name of it. But there's a new horror comedy coming out, and this is going to sound terrible, but it's gay centric. I don't know why I said that sounds going to sound terrible, but it's a gay couple that that's not a slasher. It's a horror comedy. It's about a gay couple that goes to an Airbnb type thing, and then just all this stuff goes horribly wrong, and they wind up killing people. It's quite funny. It looks quite funny. Hold on a minute. What is his name? Andrew Reynolds. I'm pulling up his IMDb, so give me 1 second.
That's awesome.
It's almost I want to say it's here it is. It's right here. It is. I gotta look up his known for because it's showing me the preview, but not showing me the name. Something like I Don't Really Know You or something like that. Actor, Invincible Night Court. I Don't Understand You. Is the name of the movie. So they're stranded in rural Italy without transportation or language skills, and they just, through a comedy of errors, sort of like Tucker and Dale versus Evil,
Oh man,
people
sign me up
just
for that.
people just start dying. And they're like,
I
we're never going to do this again. We have to get back to adopt our baby. It just looks like it's going to be great.
like a movie, and it gets hated on, but I think the director very much drove home what he was trying to do by making such unlikable characters that the movie worked for me. I actually enjoyed a couple years ago when Bodies came out,
Haven't
because
seen it.
so this is why it's just these absolutely unlikable characters, and it's almost like it's kind of like in the vein of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. They die just by accident, and it keeps multiplying. And I actually really I was shocked because I don't like Pete Davidson, and I was like, okay, I'm just going because there was nothing else in the theaters that weekend, and I actually came out enjoying that film.
I don't like Pete Davidson, which is why I did not see the film. So I can understand that. However, um, I will give it a shot now that it's on streaming and I don't have to pay for it.
See, like, I am a massive Jordan Peele fan. I am massive. I'm really intrigued by him. I,
Really?
I am. I don't know why, but he has a way of what I like about his trailers. He gives you enough, but to keep you intrigued, but he keeps it still to the point that he doesn't really reveal what his movie's about, and I
Huh,
think that's what he does well. And then
that's fair.
it's escaping me, but the young couple that's in the house, I think it's called Tomorrow or whatever. That one looks good to me as well.
Haven't seen the trailer for that yet. I will say I've only enjoyed one Jordan Peele vehicle, and that's
Okay,
Nope.
I like I liked Nope a lot.
It took a second watch for me to appreciate everything, but I actually really enjoyed that film. I've not enjoyed anything else he's done.
So let me ask you a question, because and I love what Jordan Peele's doing for black cinema,
Oh,
absolutely.
agreed. Yeah.
But my problem with Get Out, and people said how innovative Get Out was, I felt like I was watching what's the movie with the all the women that get
Stepford
reprogrammed?
Wives.
Exactly. And they were
And
saying,
that's
"Oh, it's
and
so
that's
original."
that's exactly what it was. It wasn't so I have many feelings about the Stepford Wives, right? The original is a cult classic. The remake is a great comedy. And then you have Get Out. And I
Yep.
just think that Get Out was not, I don't know how to put this without sounding like an asshole. It didn't mesh for me. And maybe it's because of my experience, right? I can't understand the things that the main character goes through because I don't have that experience, but I don't think it was translated well in the story.
Yes.
But that's my issue with Get Out. I never did see Us. I would love to see that. Um, but I just never checked it out. Yes, Penny, I came. My sister's watching us on Facebook. Yes, Penny, I came out a long time ago. Thank you. We know. But anyway, that's enough of that. I, as everybody knows, am not a Rob Zombie film fan. I did love House of a Thousand Corpses. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. And then we get a rich white guy from the suburbs trying to make movies about people that he thinks behave like trailer trash. And that's where he loses me.
The sneaky pick for me, and I don't know why I love it so much, is I think my favorite by him is 31. I like the opening monologue by Doomhead, and I think that movie is just it's just a slasher, and I really enjoy that movie. Now, I have a very big exception with Rob Zombie's Halloween,
Okay.
and the reason why is, and it's nothing against his movie, but John Carpenter very clearly said that Michael Myers was just pure evil. That when he
Yes.
stared into his eyes were black. And my problem with Rob Zombie's take of Halloween is he tries to make Michael Myers a product of his environment, and I
That's
struggled with that vision.
that's absolutely fair. And this is an issue I've had for probably the last 10 years, right? I don't need somebody's motivation explained to me. If you're walking around axing people, axe them.
Yep.
Let me care about the victims rather than the perpetrator.
Yep.
But it seems to me that people have a problem with writing likable characters anymore. Most of them I don't give a shit about. And maybe that's my age, right? Because I'm much older than when I first got into horror. I'm much older than the 80s, 90s, 2000s slashers that I loved. But now, 90% of the time, I identify with the killer.
Yep.
I want these people unalived also. So please take them out.
So, and that's funny because a lot of people ask my opinion of this, and for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm probably going to sound like an idiot right now, but I enjoyed the Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the exact reason you said, because the characters in that movie, I instantly disliked them. They came into Hewitt's home, they took everything away from him, and he just went bonkers,
Yep.
just unaliving those people. And
I did not mind that one.
yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. And and sneakily, a lot of people didn't know that Fede Alvarez was attached to that project, and it shows in the gore in that movie.
So we talked about Fede Alvarez a little bit earlier. I will tell you, he's only let me down one time. You want to take a
I
guess?
know which one you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say.
Alien Romulus was dog shit.
See, that's where you and I differ. I enjoyed everything that he did about that movie, and I don't know
What?
why.
Wait. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. What did he do that you thought was great? Please tell me. And I'm being legitimate. I'm not just looking to bash you. I know we disagree on the film, but I really want to try and understand the appreciation that some people have for the film.
So I think what a lot of people now I won't speak for you on this, but I think a lot of people that were disappointed that are used to Fede Alvarez's vision is he's very ultra gore, he's very highly like I think he was very highly stylized in this movie as well,
Mhm.
but the just the nods to how everything and the feel and the aesthetic of that movie fit in between Alien and Aliens. Like I loved how everything looked retro.
I will
Um,
give him that. He did a great job with the stylization. Jesus. It really did look like it fit in the time frame. So I'll give you that.
I thought the duality of Andy's character was fantastic. Uh,
I
I
could understand it. Yep.
I really loved the unique take on the acid scene when all the gravity turns off and Rain has to go through the acid. I loved that scene.
Okay. I did not. I thought it was a cheap ploy and none of it made any sense. But that's okay. I love that people loved it because I would love for the franchise to continue 100%. However, I think that Andy was the best part of that film. I thought that his character was heartfelt for the most part, and his character's directional change was fantastic. What I did not like were the cheesy one-liners that were supposed to be throwback, Easter eggs. Excuse me. And I really this so let me just I was okay with the film up until she went back for the I don't excuse me, don't I don't know why I have the hiccups. Did not I cannot remember the character's name. She went back for Andy. Why? She was going to turn him off and put him into the permanent sleep. But now, because there's an alien breathing down his neck, she can't do that.
Yep.
That was my problem with the alien rain scene. This is the stupidest motivation to get somebody in that position and then take advantage of it just for visual effects. That's why I didn't like that scene.
Yeah, and definitely a riff off of Aliens. He what I liked is he did nods like where he wanted to update. Like I loved how they updated the look of the alien when he's bursting out.
Yeah.
I love the chest burster scene.
Yes, that was good.
And you know what? I have to say, I rather enjoyed the nod to Prometheus as well, which I think people massively misunderstand Ridley Scott's vision with Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I actually enjoy both of those films a lot.
I loved Prometheus. I thought it was great. I thought it should have been a standalone film and not tied to Alien, though. Covenant, again, dog shit. The reason I say that, and Matthew, I'm going to use your favorite phrase. I'm going to get pedantic as fuck, right? You cannot take a film series that has centered around claustrophobia being the main tenet of the film to help build suspense and open it up planet-wide. You just lose it. You lose that main character and that main focus, and then you turn the world's perfect killing organism into a science project for an android with daddy issues. Come on.
So let's hear your feelings on Alien Earth then.
I don't know how the fuck they're doing this. I'm going to give it a shot, but it's supposed to take place, what, like 2045 or something like that?
Yeah.
When did we discover LV-426, Matthew?
Right.
So they came to Earth like 300 years before we discovered the planet and first encountered the series. I don't know that I can buy it, but I will give it a shot.
I wonder if they're retconning, and that would disappoint me tremendously.
I agree. It would disappoint me also. However, I will say, I'm interested to see visually what they can do with that series, because as much as people hate Alien Resurrection, right? That film gets so much hate, but visually, it was a fucking masterpiece. It was sensual. It was dark. It was gritty. It was everything. And I love that film. I don't care what anybody says. The only bad part of that film was Winona Ryder's character. Cole was a waste.
Yeah, that's the only exception I probably have in that movie, because I'm with you. I love Resurrection, and it has one of my favorite horror actors, Brad Dourif, in it. So I like almost everything he's in.
Yeah, I agree. Funny story about Brad Dourif, actually. I know this is a segue, but I met him at a convention where they had Alien and Aliens cast members, and I was in line to see him, and I was chatting with somebody at the next table, and I didn't know who it was. Turned out to be Alex Vincent. No problem chatting with him. I get up to Brad Dourif, and I just can't speak. I cannot open my mouth. I'm just like, and I felt like such an idiot. But he was so nice. He tried so hard to get me to be able to speak to him, but I just couldn't do it.
He right there, right along with Robert Englund, I would probably freeze up. Those two are like, just, if you can talk about so many people in horror, but there's really two people that are so absolutely synonymous with a character. I mean, if you look at the timeline, Brad Dourif's been doing Chucky for almost 40 years now, and that's impressive.
Agreed. Our friend Karen is watching, Matthew, and she said if Brad Dourif is in it, she'll watch it. I agree. I've never seen a movie that he's been in that I did not like, including Lord of the Rings, and I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan. But I digress. That also is one of the things that people don't understand about the original Alien. That was a slasher set in space.
And it's phenomenal.
It's amazing. Absolutely.
I remember there are movies that you absolutely have to see in theaters, and I know Alien is a slow burn, but I saw the 40th anniversary release of that, and it still blew me away and still gave me chills in theaters.
I'm so jealous. I got to see, though, I think it was the 35th anniversary, they re-released The Exorcist with the spider walk scene in theaters. That was an amazing experience. And then a few friends of mine and I went and saw Friday the 13th in theaters last summer.
Oh, man.
And that was fun. She didn't think it was so fun because she had never seen the film. But her husband and I were making smart-ass comments to the whole thing about how ridiculous it was. So we enjoyed ourselves, and she was annoyed as shit.
I'm excited that they're coming back. I am glad to finally see Voorhees coming back. I don't know how
Are you talking about the Peacock series?
Yeah. Did you see the new design they just released?
I did. Actually, a friend of mine just sent the picture to me today.
I don't know how I feel about it, but I am optimistic.
So you brought that up, and the reason I'm pivoting is because the friend that sent me the picture of the new design is the man behind Dead Prairie Productions. Have
That's
you watched
awesome.
Scorefers yet?
No, and I need to.
Matthew, you really need to. He's got a few films, I think Killer Balloon and another film already, Zombiegeddon, I think, are on Fear Picks. If
Okay.
you want to check out his stuff. But when I tell you this man, and I'm talking about Devin Omen from Dead Prairie Productions, is probably the nicest guy you'll ever meet. But all of the proceeds and profits from his films go to the local SPCA.
And see, that's awesome.
I think it's amazing. And that man will forever have my support, 100%. Also, little spoiler, there may be an announcement about his new movie that people might, that like this show might get excited about, but I don't want to spoil anything. It'll be out soon. Anyway,
And
not tooting my own horn or promoting a film, but he's got a new movie coming out called The Silver Scream, which is an anthology, and he's releasing on his Facebook for Dead Prairie Productions. He's releasing casting announcements, so keep your eye out. See if you know anybody.
I adore anthology movies. Another thing that takes me back to my childhood when they had so many great anthology movies. Wow, I'll sign me up for that. I love anthology movies.
Yep, and that's why. Oh, Ryan's here. Ryan says false. I'm the nicest guy you've ever met. No, Ryan, you're one of my favorites. You're not a nice guy. There's a difference. But anyway, I digress. But if you have not had an opportunity to, he doesn't have streaming anywhere. He's working on that, but his films are like $20 for the DVD. So I bought the entire Gorfer series because they are fucking genius, and I laugh my ass off.
I'll definitely have to check those out. I'll definitely check those out.
I think you'd appreciate it 100%. And he makes them knowing that they're cheesy horror comedies on a micro budget, and you love every minute of it.
Well, you know what's funny? And there are some movies that I've bought. Like I remember I turned on Netflix like 10 years ago or whatever the timeline is, and I remember I see this movie Zombievers, right?
I love that movie.
And instantly after I finished watching it, I got online and I bought a physical copy because I'm like, someone needs to own that movie.
Yep, I agree. I love that movie, and I don't know why. I have a thing for puppet horror, apparently. Like Dave Made a Maze. When they go into the maze and they're turned into puppets, I love it.
That's an awesome movie.
Happy Time Murders with Melissa McCarthy, fucking fantastic. I love puppet horror. There's even a puppet slasher set at Bandcamp. I will have to get you the name, but it was great. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was freaking great.
There is another one I own, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, and I love it. It makes me laugh. It makes me smile, and it's called Benny Loves You.
I love that movie. I own it digitally. I have not bought it physically.
That's amazing. You know, speaking, I know going backwards a little bit, but speaking about how things looked,
yes,
I'm still optimistic because I loved Prey, but I don't know how I feel about the Predator reveal in Badlands.
I'm not going to lie. I'm sort of excited about Badlands because we're taking the Predator back to his sci-fi roots. He's not on Earth anymore. There's an entire universe to open that species up to, and I'm excited to see what they do.
And see, that's why, I mean, like, just how the trailer plays out. Like when that big just creature is barreling down on him, and he just does his like primal roar and pulls out that sword. But man,
I feel like they're going the anti-hero route with this one, and I'm okay with that.
Absolutely.
Yep. It's either going to just be awful, or I'm going to really start rooting for the Predator at this point in the game. I just don't know which, but I'm excited to see where they go.
Well, and I will say that this is the biggest like disjustice to a film ever. The fact that we were not able to see Prey in theaters and how phenomenal that movie was.
Agreed.
I think Hulu and Disney and whoever was doing the pre-screens that didn't champion that movie into the theaters, we were all cheated as fans not being able to see that on big screen.
I 100% agree. I think that it would have been a blockbuster if it had been released in traditional theaters.
Yep.
You know what I loved about that, and I can't remember the actress's name, but I was like, wow, they did some really good CGI with the axe throwing. It turns out she's a competitive axe thrower.
Oh, I
Her
did
and
not
her
know that.
her and her dad do it for fun. Like they buy each other sets of axes for Christmas and stuff like that. I thought that was amazing. I was I wish I could remember her name, but like she was fantastic in that film.
I loved it so much. I remember I turned right around and I think I did a double feature. I ended up watching the Comanche dub
Yeah,
just so I could see it,
yeah.
and the movie itself is just so amazing.
It
The
really is. It's so well done. There's one I have one nitpicky thing to say about that film. The one thing that felt off to me was how fast she picked up on the technology.
Yep.
I feel like that wasn't quite authentic for that time period, but I get it. You got to advance the storyline. I get it. It did not detract from the movie overall. It just was a bit of an annoyance for me.
So let me ask you a question.
Sure.
So I catch flack for this, but I absolutely adore Predator 2. And I think a lot of people, what's unfair is we went from Arnold out in the jungle to obviously Danny Glover.
Yep.
But most people don't know this by fact checking that Danny Glover is 6'6",
Yes, he
and
is.
that Predator still made him look small.
He did.
But I felt like that was really showing off just like the weapons that the Predator had at his arsenal. And then you obviously get the massive reveal of the Aliens versus Predator universe at the end. And I adore so many things about that movie.
I enjoyed sorry, Predator, Predator 2. Um, but if we're, first of all, everybody knows, if you don't, you clearly don't listen to anything I say. I think Alien versus Predator is the cheapest garbage I've ever seen in my life. Any of the installments, the comic books, the movies, all of it is garbage. But I digress. My favorite entry in the Predator series is Predators with Adrian Brody.
Great movie.
I thought that was absolute perfection. I
The
had a
the
blast watching that film.
the Pred dog in that movie was amazing as well.
Agreed.
It's so cool. And you know what? I even thought like people thought it was a weird part of the movie, but Lawrence Fishburne when he shows up and he's just mad and you
Yep.
can tell how long he's been trapped on that planet.
Yep.
I did not take exception with that scene like so many people did.
No, I did not. I found nothing wrong with that movie at all. Like, and again, it's been a few years since I've seen it, but I don't remember disliking any part of that movie. I had so much fun watching it. Um,
Absolutely.
Chris is saying that Bill Paxton was good in Predator 2 also.
Yep.
Of course he was. Bill Paxton's fantastic in everything he does. Even when he's playing a giant pile of shit in Weird Science, he's great.
I love that movie.
I do too. But again, I digress. Yeah, Predator. So I didn't realize until, I don't know, like maybe 10 years ago or so, what a big slasher fan I was. Because no matter what slasher movie I get into, regardless of how good or bad it is, I always get excited, right? It keeps you on the edge of your seat. It keeps you moving. I don't care if people say, I Know What You Did Last Summer is the stupidest slasher series ever created. I've seen much worse. I got excited. I sat on the edge of my seat. I was interested in the story, whether it was just because I wanted them to die or what. I think that is what to me draws me in, right? If you can keep me interested in the story, good or bad, whether it's I just want everybody to die or I really sympathize with the murderer because these people are annoying as shit or because they're actually likable characters, that's what I want in a film, right? That's what I want to see. And in the late 80s, early 90s, even some of the 2000 slashers, we did a good job in making the characters appeal to the masses. And the sad thing is, I think now that's what I hate about mass market slashers.
Yep.
Is that they try to make every character appeal to the masses, so you lose all individuality. And that's really what I look for now in characters. And I don't want people to just be tropes, right? You
Yep.
want them to be individuals that you care about. Whether you, so I'll give you, for instance, right there, we were in watching a relatively new movie in the theaters, and this one character dies, and somebody screamed out in the theater, and I was like, yes, what he said. And it was great. I don't want to ruin any movies for anybody that are currently in theaters, but I'm sure you'll get what I mean when you see the movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
like
Yep.
there is a slasher that I have such an appreciation for, and obviously an independent film, and I wish we would have gotten a franchise out of it. And I think the slasher was such a unique design, and I love The Hills Run Red. And
I've not seen that one yet.
so they have it's pretty much a guy is obsessed with a film that never went to print, and all you really have is a trailer on it, and the movie disappears. And
Okay.
it has William Sadler in it,
Okay.
but Babyface in that movie is just so rad to me. Like, it's such a cool design, and it's a slasher I always recommend to people.
Right. I haven't watched that one, so I will have to pick that up. I will have to check that out. But I just watched, or not just watched, I just heard about a new film that's coming out that is something similar. Hold on one second. We'll tell you exactly what it is
I love it.
because it's in my. Not that one. Fade to Black.
Okay.
So this movie is about a writer who becomes so obsessed with making a film that he has written that his life starts to emulate the screenplay.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
It sounds like it could be a blast, right?
Yep.
So I'm excited to see what winds up coming out of that. The premise sounds really great. I have not heard a thing about the casting. I've only seen a synopsis of the film, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
Absolutely. I'm definitely gonna look that up.
Yeah, it's definitely one to keep an eye out. Eye out for. I cannot talk today. What is wrong with my lips? Anyway, Matthew, thank you for hanging out with me today. This has been a blast. We definitely need to have
Absolutely.
you on when Mark comes back for sure.
I look forward to it.
But once again, before we leave, give everybody your socials so that they can follow you if they want.
Absolutely. You guys can find me on TikTok and Instagram under HorrorMaddness0055.
Thank you, sir. Thank you again for hanging out. And everybody that's been watching, thank you very much. We will
Take
see you
care,
soon.
Jim.
Okay.